Hello everyone, so welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Douglas Johnson. I'm a yoga and meditation teacher. I am also an ordained minister and a certified Kiloby inquiries facilitator. And today I wanted to speak a little bit about revelation versus enlightenment. This is a rather advanced topic, if you will. This is going to make sense for people who have perhaps had revelatory experiences, spiritual insights, awakening experiences, Satori, Kensho, all these types of experiences. And this is something I've come across quite a bit recently with different clients and students and people that are coming to me for help. They are confusing a spiritual experience with enlightenment. So before I get into that, I want to thank all my patrons on Patreon who support me in making these talks. I do not get paid to do this by YouTube or anybody else. There's no advertising or anything like that. So it is the generous contribution of my patrons who allow me to have the time and resources to make these talks available to everybody on YouTube. So I want to thank them. And if you'd like to become a patron, then please check out the links below. There are several ways that you can contribute to help me continue doing this type of work. So back to the topic at hand. I found again recently in working with various clients that there can be a lot of confusion between a spiritual experience and enlightenment itself. A spiritual experience is something that comes and goes. It can be very profound. It can be very emotional. It can be very meaningful. We can have a lot of clarity with those types of experiences. And so it's very difficult to not be attached to the experience. And it can be very tricky to not wrap up our identity in the experience as well. Because we might have, again, a lot of clarity about maybe what we are or what we are not. And as strange as that can sound, that clarity can be confusing when we are in a different state or at a different time, you might say. So the very same realization, clarity, understanding, maybe we're having a meditation or we're just having an awakening experience and there's just, again, this realization that what we thought we were, we aren't really. We aren't limited to identification with the body, to our emotions, our thoughts. But unless we truly understand what we really are, the ground of being, the unchangeable ground of being, and unless we understand this beyond an experience of it, because again, the experience of that kind of clarity is not really the natural state for a human being, even an enlightened human being. The natural state for a human being is to Well, we all experience it, don't we? So to think that an enlightened human being means a being who walks around in an altered state of consciousness is, again, confusing these states where, again, a lot of clarity can arise. It can be very blissful, again, very emotional, but it's confusing that with enlightenment, which doesn't come and go. This is why in the Zen Buddhist tradition and in other Buddhist traditions, there tends to be an emphasis on you're already enlightened. That Zen is pointing to a state or a condition or a realization that is prior to there being a distinction between enlightened and unenlightened. And that's because that's what we really are. So as long as we're attached to a state, certain conditions, a certain way of feeling, having, again, certain kind of insights, or, you know, almost like spiritual X-ray vision. It can feel like that sometimes when you're having insight. It's like, oh, I see so clearly what I could not see before. I see what others cannot see. It's a beautiful thing to experience. And again, if you have not experienced this, then this talk may not make that much sense to you. But if you have, it's very likely that you've experienced what I'm speaking about, where this is sometimes described as, I got it and then I lost it. This can also be called things like vacillation or oscillation or cloudiness, right? That we were clear and now we're cloudy, we're confused. And again, it's very understandable. But this is where working closely with a teacher like me or a non-dual teacher who knows how to do direct pointing in a very poignant, clear way, they can help you clear up any personal confusion you're having about states versus that which experiences states. So Zen and other non-dual schools, tantric yoga, these non-dual teachings, they're all trying to get you to see that which cannot be seen. Because what you're seeing is that which sees. So when I say see, I'm not talking about literally seeing, but this is where the confusion can sometimes come in. Because in an altered state, after meditating for hours or doing Kundalini practices or something else that alters my normal state of consciousness, sometimes these happen spontaneously. I've had them happen spontaneously, just walking down the street. We might have a vision. We might see something. And again, we might identify with what we see. But again, if it comes and goes, then that is not what Zen is ultimately trying to point us to. Because again, Zen points to something that is beyond enlightenment and not enlightenment. So true enlightenment, in a sense, doesn't recognize that enlightenment or non-enlightenment exists. In a pragmatic sense, yes, of course, it's obvious. These are two very different experiences. But interestingly, that which we really are, the fundamental ground of being, doesn't really have a preference for one or the other. And this is where some of the confusion, I think, comes. Because we as humans may have a very strong preference for one over the other. And we may even believe that one is how things should truly be. One is more natural or more real or more complete or more enlightened, and that we need to do something to constantly be in that state. The irony is, my experience with it is, that when we attach to enlightenment, or these enlightenment experiences, these awakening experiences, when we chase after them, when we think that they are the only truth or the only way to be, we actually cover up true enlightenment, that fundamental that Zen is trying to get us to see, these non-dual teachings are trying to get us to see. And that's the irony, is that these awakening experiences that may reveal to us that there is more to reality and to life and to experience than conventional wisdom would let on, they can confuse us about the ultimate nature of reality. So for most people, they are a necessary step. It's necessary for us to have these awakening experiences, because otherwise, for most of us, it can be very difficult to realize the fundamental ground of being. We're likely to just believe and identify with conventional wisdom. We're likely to just believe and identify with our human identity. And again, from ultimate awakening and reality, that's not really a problem. There's nothing wrong with that, per se. But from the perspective of ultimate truth, if we want to know the ultimate truth, which cannot be put into words, it's not something we can just wrap up, but it is something that can be skillfully pointed to. And again, it can't be seen with your eyes, but in a sense it can be seen in the sense that it can be recognized. We can understand, the human can learn to understand what the deeper nature that supports the human and everything else, what that really is. And that's what we would call enlightenment. Now again, some people get very wrapped up with superpowers and spiritual abilities and cities and things like that. But in the traditions that I follow, generally it's encouraged that one does not get too wrapped up in those things. That one can be fully realized and understand the nature of reality, of themselves, be fully enlightened, and yet not experience or exhibit any of these things. So whether it's experiences or it is superpowers or anything else, again, our ultimate nature, our true nature transcends all of these. The other thing that the traditions point out is that one can learn how to cultivate these powers or have these kinds of experiences without being enlightened. So hopefully you see how enlightenment, the true understanding of true nature, of the fundamental ground of being, this is independent of these other types of experiences or superpowers. Again, so you may read a book that talks about an enlightened master and they levitate and they go to other worlds and they have all these experiences. And you may read that and think, well, since that hasn't happened to me, I guess I'm not an enlightened master. But as I just said, it's possible to have those kinds of experiences without being an enlightened master. Because again, it's not about power, it's not about experiences. It is about recognition. So if we recognize our true nature and the true nature of reality, then we're enlightened. And the irony is that when we stop chasing after powers and experiences, the clarity from those spiritual experiences and enlightenment experiences, they can begin to pervade every moment, every ordinary moment of our lives. So we don't need a special experience anymore to be having a special experience. We can chop wood and carry water, and that can be the most profound experience that's possible for us, without exception. All right, everyone. So I want to keep today's talk brief. I hope that's helpful for you. Again, I've been doing a lot of work with people one-on-one these days. So if you'd like to do some direct pointing with me or inquiry, you'd like some spiritual counseling, I'm doing more and more of that type of work. So reach out to me and we can book a session, and hopefully we can help you live a more fulfilled, enriched, and happy life. To me, that's what these teachings and these tools have really helped me do. They've helped me be a better human being, not by any external measure. I'm not trying to live up to some expectation of a tradition or spiritual religion, but by my own standards. They've also helped me to reach potentials that I didn't realize I could reach as an individual. And they've helped me to experience more peace and more joy than I would have ever imagined possible for a human being. So if that sounds good to you, please reach out and let's see if working together is the right thing to take you to the next level of your spiritual development. Until next time, everyone, thanks again for listening. Thank you to my patrons. Namaste, and have a beautiful, beautiful day.